You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Ian, look at this.
What, it's a police box. What on earth is he doing here? I mean, these things are usually on the street. I feel it. Do you feel it?
Faint vibration.
It's alive.
Earth Station Who, a fun mashup celebrating nearly 50 years of Doctor Who universe. Hold tight. You never know where the TARDIS is going next.
You're probably a bit confused right now. I broke the glass. It's all come back to me.
What is this?
That's my ship.
What?
Let me take it from the top. Hello, I'm the Doctor. I'm a traveller in space and time. And that thing buried down there is called a TARDIS. Time and relative dimension in space. You're gonna love this.
Hey there, everyone, and welcome to our first live streamline going on StreamYard for Earth Station Who, and we are going to be talking all about essentials of Doctor Who tonight. My name is Mike Faber. I am the host of Earth Station Who. Let's introduce our crew for everybody. Let's, of course, welcome first the talented and lovely Mary Ogle. Hey, Mary.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome to StreamYard. This is pretty big for us.
Yes, it is. Wow. That was a pretty nifty intro you made, I have to say.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We actually have our friend Jason Delatorre to thank for that wonderful ESO intro.
Thank you so much, Jason.
We appreciate it. And of course, Mr. Mike Gordon is here.
Howdy.
How are you, my friend?
I am peachy keen and yes, ready to stream away.
Are you? And of course, for you, you have to say, howdy!
Of course.
So that is awesome, sir. Welcome to everybody who's listening right now, who's watching. We've already got 4 people. All right. We also have a guest with us. Of course, let's welcome Melanie Dean.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Mel. Welcome to our show.
I'm always excited when I get asked to come back on here. And then I heard that you guys are going to be on StreamYard. I'm like, oh, now you guys get to learn these boxes.
So, yeah, right. I know these boxes, and I'm still like, because on top of everything, I need to try to figure out how the heck I'm going to get this over to the Earth Station Who page of Facebook. So we're going to also have a couple other folks joining us in a little bit. We're going to have a few different individuals who will be joining us to talk all about Doctor Who Essentials. But it's pretty cool what's been going on doing a live show like this. And we would love you guys, for everyone at home. We always, of course, it's feedback@earthstationwho.com, and please listen wherever you find podcasts are found. We definitely would appreciate it. We are there too. We also are going to announce a little bit later some news about Dragon Con, and so we'll be talking about that at the end of the show. But as of right now, welcome. We are so happy to have everybody here. If you have any comments or anything, those on Facebook or YouTube, we also have a few listeners there who are going to be watching this live. You can also do comments and such. So we will be taking your comments, because this is the way we do our shows. When we do live ones, we do interactive. We want you guys to ask us questions or comment, and either myself, Mike, or Mary will go browse the comment section, and we will be talking about what we can see and everything, and who we could talk to and everything, and questions about Doctor Who Essentials. And, with Doctor Who going through another regeneration in October, we are getting real excited. And a lot of people always come up to us either at conventions or just in general and say, hey, I like Doctor Who, or I'd like to start watching Doctor Who, but I don't know where to start. And we thought it would be a great way to get a conversation going and doing it live and talking about where's the best places to start? What are episodes, if you want to learn about certain characters to talk about, or even, hey, I've heard about Big Finish. Is there any suggestions you guys have for that, or comics, or even some of the novelizations and such? So we'll get all into that, and it should be a ton of fun to be able to do that. Mary disappeared for a second, of course, because it's live. But of course, we also have one of our guests joining us. Let's welcome Matthew Kresal to the show. Oh, Matthew disappeared too. It's going to be one of those nights, folks. That's right.
You can do this. I believe in you.
I know. I'm clicking my heels right now going, there's no place like home. There's no place like home. But, I'm hoping that'll work. So it's awesome to have folks wanting to be on the show. And Doctor Who news-wise, let's hop into that a little bit. There really isn't any new Doctor Who news yet. Literally, there's rumors coming out. There's conversations of, different, rumors. And as we always say on the show, we don't talk about rumors on it, because when we ever talk about rumors on the show, we always, we are always wrong. Exactly. So, I think it's pretty cool. But I know, Mary, you saw a new trailer today featuring a certain one of our favorite companions. You want to talk about that real quick?
I did.
Yes. You did? Okay. About Graham?
You're talking about Graham.
We're talking about Graham, the best companion ever.
That's the best companion.
That's not just a companion. That's the companion.
That is the Uber companion.
The Uber companion. Hey, Matthew.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
All right.
Yay.
It's the BBC in its infinite wisdom has decided to come out with a compendium of Graham highlights, which you can find on the BBC YouTube channel. And of course, it is absolutely awesome because Graham is the one and only.
Yes. Since we're talking about Doctor Who Essentials, it's essential that we spotlight Graham first and foremost.
Yes.
Of course, talking about essential all the way right there.
Graham should always be front and center.
So awesome, folks. And you know what? It's interesting to be able to talk about, our favorite companion, Graham. It's always the best way. So I'm very interested to, see when the new trailer for the BBC 100th anniversary is going to be coming out. It's already almost mid-August already.
Yeah, it'd be nice if it came out soon, BBC.
Yeah.
Maybe announce an actual date.
I thought they had a date already. I thought they said it was either Saturday the 15th or Sunday the 16th. I don't remember.
Yeah, well, that's just it. It's either or.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I'm pretty sure they know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's not that they don't know. It's that they never announce it till the last minute.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, in all fairness, we know about as much about the Doctor Who Centennial Special as we know any of the other Centennial stuff that's been announced. So, I mean, the BBC's keep, it's being kept close to the BBC's chest for reasons best known to the BBC.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of our Facebook users said, I like Graham, but I'm afraid Sarah, Jane, and K9 are my favorite. And then another Facebook user said, you all hate me, but my favorite companion.
Not all of us hate you.
We don't all hate you. Just Faber over there. Where is he? Over here.
Somewhere.
Oh, no. Ninth Dr. Rose, yay. After
that
way.
Exactly. And it's funny, too, because actually Matt Sweatman, I could talk tonight, yes, folks, thinks we know more about the 60th anniversary specials than the anniversary special coming up.
Yeah, you have a point there.
That's probably true.
Exactly. So it's interesting that, what they're releasing and what they're not releasing. So it's
Wow, it's same old, same old. I don't know what it is about their marketing department, but they always release it as late as they possibly can, which I don't understand because you think they'd want to hype it a little more, you know?
You would think.
Yeah.
You really would think. And it's interesting, you know, that we have all these different, you know, means of getting news and getting stories out, but they've been very tight-lipped about this anniversary special. And, you know, we've been seeing tons of shots. God, if I see more pictures of David Tennant as the Doctor, you know, and everything, it's like, come on already, you know.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. We have not seen any pictures yet of Shooty at all.
No,
Nope.
nothing yet.
Nope.
That one they've been
Nothing.
able to keep very tight-lipped, and I honestly think it's because maybe they're filming more on a stage, maybe that they're trying to get everything 60th out of the way first. I think they're done now. Maybe, I don't know, because I mean we were getting so much news left and right because of rumors, people who were just taking pictures from the set who were just like, I don't care, I'm just going to indiscriminately spoil everybody.
Yeah.
But then, you know, the BBC having to get in front of a little bit of that and trying to making announcements. But yeah, you're right. We haven't seen any photos of Shooty. We haven't seen any news or anything else. So maybe they've been being more, they're either trying to protect where they're shooting a little bit better. They're probably inside stages and not having to do PR announcements because you have all the paparazzo doing it, you know, exacerbating it.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. So it's, you know, so I love this one. Somebody wrote, I could look at pictures of David all day long.
The other thing about that too is that we saw pictures of you know, David with Catherine Tate and the recently late Bernard Cribbins, and I think that was also because they needed to film a lot of that material first, because apparently it was pretty well known that he was ill of health, so they wanted to make sure all of his scenes were shot first and foremost. So I think maybe that's why we saw that stuff was released first, because that's what they shot first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it was a lot of outdoor shooting too. I mean,
Well, exactly.
there's
Yeah.
chatter that they are still shooting, but it's inside.
Sure, a lot more easier to control that way.
Yeah.
Which I think is incredible, thinking that Bernard and his team knew, look, this might not have much time left. Lord knows if whether or not it was he might not have enough time left just to perform. Maybe they didn't think that it was we're about to that he'd be moving on to his next great endeavor. Maybe, I mean, just if trying to compartmentalize my thoughts here. If they knew he was terminal, oh my God, the tenacity this man had to keep working when you're that close is just mind-boggling to me. Or if it was just a matter of he might not be able to be getting to a stage of performing anymore and definitely has to stop, go ahead and start filming it now. And then maybe it was even a shocker of the announcement of his passing, thinking, oh, we thought we were just trying to get fast because, you know, his energy levels aren't as great as they are. Not, oh Lord, he was ready to pass. So yeah, either way, I'm just floored that that they were able to go ahead and push production so quickly to do it. And two, just the testament to his tenacity to go, yeah, I'm going to perform. Let's do this.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Absolutely. I mean, no matter what happens with that special episode, whatever you want to call it, we know that scene in particular is going to tug at all our heartstrings.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. And yeah, of course, you know, Matt Sweatman is not above the Chibnall bashing already. And Matt, of course, says, if I trusted Chibnall more,
What?
I might actually be
Chibnall
excited
bash?
that we almost know nothing about Whitaker's final
So
coming
let's
up.
see, what time is it? 14 minutes. Wow.
That's not bad for us.
I was going to say, I'm surprised it took us that long.
Shocking, isn't it, folks?
And go.
Exactly. All right. Now, but yeah, it's interesting. And it's funny, in an interview that Matt Smith just did, recently, you know, because he's talking about his new show that he has, the Game of Thrones show. And he said,
House of Dragon.
House of Dragons. He said he's wondering if he's too old now to play the Doctor.
Oh, Matt, you're sweet.
This is the same Matt Smith who was in a scene with Tom Baker? Come on, man.
Matt, I mean, it's not even out of his 30s yet. Shut up, man.
Exactly.
I know, right?
Yeah. So for all of us who are up here right now, 30 was so far behind us, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he was just being funny. I can't imagine that was sincere.
No, I don't think so. So it's interesting, and it's going to be very interesting to see what they come up with. And, you know, the Master, or if it's going to be the Cyberman, or it's going to be all the above, if you're going to get still the Renegade Doctor, you know, everything all tied up in a bow. No, this is Chibnall.
No.
This is Chibnall.
I think that's the one thing we can pretty much predict accurately.
So, yeah, somebody on Facebook, he's young enough to be my son. It wasn't me who put that. No. So it's awesome. And it's going to be very, very interesting to see what is going on and with Doctor Who and what's to come. And, you know, when are we, because after the October special, we don't know yet when we're going to get more Doctor Who news wise.
No.
And, you know, it's going to be very interesting to see, are we going to get a holiday special, or are we going to get different specials throughout the year, and then they're going to do a regular series in the following year? We just don't know. So
lots of rumors, but no confirmations.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It is very, very interesting to see. And you know what, folks? I'm going to be very curious that where we go with it and where we are going to what's going to happen with it. So best of luck with Doctor Who. Best of luck with everything to come. And other Doctor Who news, very minimal stuff because we're on waiting and everything. But so be it. Any other things we want to cover before that anyone else has heard or anything? So we're all in the same boat, folks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting too, because, you know, we're doing this live and we're just going to go plow through. We're not going to take a break when we get into the main topic. So as I said at the beginning of the show, we're going to be talking about Doctor Who Essentials. And basically, you know, Doctor Who Essentials, the way we're going to define it for tonight is, where would you recommend somebody picking up Doctor Who? Or where, like, for a first episode, where would you recommend them if somebody said, oh, I started watching Doctor Who, but what are the Daleks? You know, where did I see them the first time? Or the Master, or the Time Lords, or whatever, Weeping Angels even. And it's, you know, or we could even talk about things that we should stay away from, essentially. So it all.
But you know, that's certainly one definition. But I also feel like, you know, these aren't necessarily our favorite episodes.
No, definitely not.
But I think these are important moments, important episodes, must-see moments of the franchise, right?
Exactly, and this is like must-see stuff or must-see TV for Doctor Who, and you know, what explains things, what would make sense for people to watch without having to relearn learn the show for the first time. And, you know, I'm going to just start it off. And a lot of times, you know, especially if somebody is daunted by the almost 60 years of Doctor Who, I always tell people to start at a regeneration episode of any of the Doctors and go from there. Because anytime you have a regeneration, most of the time, it's, you know, literally, you know, a fresh start. You know,
it's a reboot.
It's literally a reboot of the series, and that's the great thing with Doctor Who is the show keeps on reinventing itself. You know, a lot of people I always say start at Eccleston because that is the true reboot for the new series, and it's interesting with that. But I felt like they also did that a lot with Matt Smith's Doctor with the 11th Hour, and so it's
because as we've mentioned before, like the regeneration episodes, that's a perfect example, because the regeneration episodes are often not the best episodes, right? Like,
No,
I mean, some of them are
not.
some of them are good. Some of them are very good. There's even a couple that I would think are like really some of my favorites. But generally speaking, the regeneration ones are not the sort of the best ones, because the person playing the Doctor is pretty rough. A lot of times you've got a new creative team joining, so they're still learning how they're going to work and what the rhythm of the show is. So it usually takes a little bit of time for the juices to start flowing, so to speak, right? There's still, as one doctor said, he's still cooking, right? Like in the first few episodes, right? Like,
right. Actually, Matt said, I encourage people to watch new Who seasons in order, but classic Who stories can be easily jumped around. And so I kind of agree with that.
I don't know. I mean, I think that's coming from a perspective of, I understand where you're coming from, but I think if you know more about Doctor Who, then it's easier to say you can jump around in classic. But if you're somebody who's new to it, I think it's going to be harder for you to do that.
Well, that was my experience with classic. Oh, sorry, Melanie.
Oh no, I was going to say in classic, I'm used to if you know which arc you're watching, yes, because there's like four episode, that kind of an arc kind of thing.
Right.
I can see where you could jump around, but if you accidentally jump into like the middle of an arc, you're going to
be lost.
Yeah. I was going to pick up what Melanie was saying there, which is that's actually when I got into Doctor Who, I came in through Classic Who. So I started with the 5 Doctors, and then went and did the 3 Doctors, and then went and did the Seeds of Death with Patrick Troughton, and then did the whole Key to Time season, because that's what my local public library had. And I think in some ways, I think the 5 Doctors, even though it's the 20th anniversary story, is a wonderful jumping on point for people who are getting into Doctor Who, particularly Classic Who for the first time. Because not only do you have the first 5 Doctors, you've got a whole host of companions. You've got Gallifrey, you've got K9, Dalek, Cybermen, you name it. So it's because it's a celebration of everything, but it doesn't tie into the arc stuff in the same way that, say, the Day of the Doctor does. Where it's Time War and multiple Doctors and everything else. It's a very good place to do that. I think those first 2 multi-Doctor stories, 5 Doctors and 3 Doctors, are kind of a good point, because you get multiple Doctors in one go, and you get a feeling of kind of everything that this show is capable of.
It's like a nice sampler. Right?
That's a very good phrase. Yeah,
this is what this doctor's like, and this is what this doctor's like.
Exactly. You don't get you don't get much of a great sample of the 4th Doctor, but everybody else is pretty well represented there. And I would.
He was a great mannequin, Mike. He was a total great mannequin.
I do think
he was a little stiff in his performance.
I do think that. I do think that the 5 Doctors story could be considered essential. Yes, I do think that's a pretty landmark event in the franchise, and that a lot of people I know started watching Doctor Who from that special.
Yeah, I think I would. Doctor Who's one of those things where I would say do not start with the first Doctor, because it's going to confuse you. Because it's actually so different from the rest of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
That it's something I would say watch some of the later episodes first and then go back to that.
Yeah, I of course, for me, if we're starting essential episodes, the very first episode, Unearthly Child, to me is like, I'm not sure if you want to start there per se, but it is essential viewing. Like, I do feel like everybody needs to watch the first, because I'll tell you what, it was a long time as a Doctor Who fan before I finally saw it. And when I did, the one thing that surprised me is how much I recognized in that story, as far as the format, the way things work. The TARDIS is there. There's a lot of things that I know that they change things, as you said, Mike. Doctor Who's all about change, but there's a lot of things that are still
different.
Right. The roots of the series are right there from the beginning.
From the very first episode. Because the Doctor almost hits everybody over the head with a rock.
Maybe not everybody, but
So
that's not actually in the very first episode, but it is in the first story. You're right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
In some ways,
or the Doctor wanting to leave the companions behind,
I mean, in some ways, we're lucky those first 3 stories exist in their entirety in the archive. You think about how much of 60s Doctor Who is missing. True. Those first 3 stories, because I watched them for another podcast, going through the show in chronological order. And that was the thing that was really surprising, is how much the show changes from its original idea of what it's going to be in An Unearthly Child. And it's, the Daleks really kind of sort of cement the idea that this is going to be a science fiction action adventure series. And then you don't get the first Doctor and those companions as we've come to know them until you get to Edge of Destruction, it's a wonderful 2-part story set entirely in the TARDIS, because they ended up running it. They didn't have the budget to start doing the next story, and that scripts weren't quite ready. So they basically wrote a 2-part filler story and put it all in the TARDIS. And it's one of the best bottle stories or episodes you're ever going to see for any show, for that matter.
Well, that's one of the things, Matthew, that's actually really...
those 2 episodes, the characterization.
I think we're having a little bit of a lag there for a second.
Yeah.
Sorry, Matthew. I didn't mean to interrupt you. But one of the things that we're very lucky right now in this era is they've found a lot of the missing episodes compared to how they were even 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And they've been able to restore some with the audio that still existed and everything, and made animations up. And it's all classic series, specifically the first and second Doctor era. But they've been able to complete because of finding episodes of the third Doctor. Because there was some missing there too for a bit.
Do they still even have the scripts for those particular episodes, or is there just?
I'm sure the scripts are somewhere.
Yeah, they do have scripts often because the BBC had a script library. So they have the scripts as they went out. They were essentially transcribed. So that's what exists in the BBC archives.
Transcriptions, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of the writers and some of the cast members kept their scripts from those productions. And it's from those scripts that they're able to kind of see the little changes that were made between the writer's office and the script editor's office, the rehearsal room floor, and indeed the production itself.
Mm-hmm.
And in some cases, we even have the camera scripts, so we know exactly what shots they used, which is of huge help in actually doing the animations and reconstructing.
Okay.
No,
I always kind of wondered that, because even then, with the animations, if they wanted to go even a big finish route, they could even do that. I was always kind of wondering, because I know that there's these missing, there's episodes missing, and what was it? The last ones that they found happened to be in South Africa that they found in some tapes somewhere in somebody's attic or what have you.
I think it was Nigeria, and they found them at a TV relay station where they've been sitting there since like the 70s or the 80s. And it's just incredible to think that there might still be episodes out there. My favorite one is an episode of the Daleks Master Plan that was found in the 80s in the basement of a Mormon church in the UK, of all places.
Wow. Wow.
You never know. There could still be some out there.
Wow. Everybody's a secret Doctor Who fan.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's really interesting, too, though, because, with these lost episodes and... there's certain stories I don't know if we're ever going to see. Something like the Highlander, or even certain other Doctor stories, like from the first planet, the Daleks and stuff that they had. It's just interesting that there's maybe 1 or 2 episodes still in existence, but they don't have the rest of it, and they don't even have audio to be able to, create from it. But now, I was going to just say, and I'll let you speak, Mike, in a sec, but I was just going to say, I know they're slowing down right now on the animations because of budgets or political what's going on with Doctor Who right now.
Stupid accountants.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I know it actually, it's interesting that, certain ones, and actually Alan just popped in and he actually said, actually the audio recordings exist for all missing episodes. So that would be interesting because, I know when we did our reviews originally of the Regenerations, we had to do the audio of like the 10th planet. And at the time also, what was it? Power of the Daleks.
I think you're right.
And and it was interesting because we were going through Regenerations at the beginning. And, for me, it's just interesting to see where we, you want to get started with. But, for a newbie with Doctor Who, you want to do, something that's doable because it is daunting to say, oh, you have to watch all 60 years of Doctor Who to understand.
Yeah. I mean,
you don't at all.
No. There's some that, I think we would, well, it's a personal thing, but yes, there are some that we would probably discourage completely. But I think, as Matthew said, we're really lucky and fortunate that two versions, right, of The Unearthly Child survived, so that, because I think it aired twice because of the Kennedy assassination and all that, and they changed some things, right? But and also the story right after that, which is the Daleks, which is like the big bad for the Doctor. I think that's really amazing that we have those two that survived. Because there are not, as popular as the Daleks are, not all the Dalek stories have survived. I'm kind of wondering for like you guys, what you feel, because I don't know if I would put, certainly it's interesting, that first story with the Daleks. I don't know if I would necessarily say that's essential, but I can't see having a list of essential episodes without having the Daleks represented. Yeah, so I don't know if anybody out there has another idea for a Dalek story that would be considered more essential than the first one.
The Ninth Doctor Dalek story.
That's the one I would choose.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think that is a very, very good reintroduction of the Daleks.
Yeah, and it's such a good exploration of the Doctor's feelings around the Daleks and why he feels that way in the rage that he doesn't usually display, but that really, almost gets out of hand in that episode.
Also, Matt Sweatman actually said my other one too, Genesis of the Daleks from the Fourth Doctor era.
Yeah,
that's the way I was thinking too. That it's got one of the most famous scenes of all Tom's run and all classic Doctor Who, where he's making the decision. He's gone back in time. Do I end the Daleks before they begin? Or do I let them go? And it's really the first time that we've seen the Doctor really have that, conflict.
Yeah. The problem with picking Genesis, though, is it's much more of a Davros story. It's much more about the creator than it is about them. And in some ways, I think if you're going to pick a classic Who Dalek story, you've got to go either for the Power of the Daleks, which is now preserved in audio and animated. But if you want a complete surviving story, my pick actually would be to go for the Dalek invasion of Earth.
Oh, that's a good one too.
It's Doctor Who's first alien invasion story. It's the best of those first Doctor Dalek stories, but it's also got the first companion exit as well. That wonderful speech Hartnell does at the end of it. One day I will come back, and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Which they've played over and over and over.
Well, it's
a good speech.
It's a good speech, and they don't have that many clips to choose from. So,
True, but it's also the first companion leaving too.
Yeah.
Because you had Susan leave.
Yep.
And, that's a whole different story. I still think Susan is the timeless child, but that's a whole another discussion. I threw it out there, damn it.
Sure.
I think if you want an essential companion story, you can go back to the first Doctor and say the Aztecs, because Barbara's arc in there is actually quite powerful, especially with the companion coming to realize the consequences of trying to change history.
Oh, very much so. Very, very much so. And it's like, nope. Fixed point in time. That wonderful saying. But, it's interesting too, because the Daleks obviously are the Doctor's biggest bad guys and everything. And I think second to that probably would be the Master.
Or the Cybermen.
Or the Cybermen.
Yeah.
And
Right.
and I know the 10th Planet, did they ever fully animate it? Or is it, just audio only still?
Wasn't that one
They
they were supposed
animated
to
the
be
last
working
episode
on?
because that was what was missing.
Yeah, you got me stumped on that one. But I more so than the 10th Planet, if I was going to pick a, beginning story to start with the Cybermen or whatever, I would go with Tomb of the Cybermen for two reasons. One, because it's a really amazing story. And two, because I think this is really it's the second Doctor and his companionship with Jamie that to me really sell the idea of a Doctor and a companion working together in a great way. I mean, I think to me, like, Jamie is the first companion that I was like, I really like this guy and I hope he doesn't leave. Before that, it's just a revolving door, right? But it's the Doctor and then whoever for a few episodes and then someone else and then someone else. But Jamie's the first one that you're like, man, and they had such a good rapport together, the actors, that I just felt like, this could go, I hope he doesn't go anywhere. This could go on for a while. And then it's true. He sticks around for a while, more than I think the others do. And there's other companions that kind of go, is it 2 or 3, right? That serve at the same time.
Well, you started with,
is it somebody else and then Victoria, right?
Yeah, it was, yes, and you're stumping us there, Mike. Thanks.
That's all right. No. And well, I knew that Victoria and Zoe were 2 of the ones. I thought there was one before that.
No,
before
there was.
Victoria
Ben and Polly come before.
Ben and Polly, because Ben and Polly come from the first Doctor era.
Yeah,
and they carry over.
But I was talking about somebody who was with Jamie and the Doctor.
No, it was Ben and Polly and Jamie.
Okay, gotcha.
And then,
that's right.
And then Ben and Polly leave, and then the next episode, Victoria comes.
Gotcha. Okay, that's right. But I mean, so you have somebody sticking around with the Doctor for the first time while the other companions kind of revolve, go through the revolving door. And I think that, to me, it really clicks when Zoe joins, and they're like a great trio, one of my favorites of all time. But I mean, I think like I said, so for me, Tomb of the Cybermen, it shows the Jamie Doctor relationship very well. And it also is a great Cyberman story. So to me, it's like, I would put that as an essential as well.
No, I could understand that. I totally understand that, because Jamie almost was the whole length of the second Doctor era. And because I think the second story was Highlanders, and that's where they brought him in. So, and then he was with them all the way through the end of War Games. Now, if you want somebody to not follow Doctor Who for that long, do not have them watch War Games. It's 10 episodes.
Yeah,
and
it's long.
It is very long. And it's a fantastic story, but pace yourself, get into it and everything.
And it's different pacing in classic Doctor Who. You kind of have to be aware.
Yeah.
Of that.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because a lot of times then you started having, especially like during like the fourth Doctor era and such, you didn't have companions overlap all that much, because you had, Sarah, who was carried over from the third Doctor era, and you had Harry, and then Harry left. Harry was only like a part-time companion. He was only on a few episodes, but then you had Sarah, and then she left, and then Leela came, and then the two Romanas after Leela left.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that with the third Doctor too, except for Unit's always there. But I mean, we have I can't remember her name.
Liz Shaw.
Thank you, Liz Shaw. And then I knew it was an L.I. something. I'm like, Liv? No, it's not it. Liz Shaw, and then Joe Grant. So it's like boom, boom. Like they don't overlap.
No, exactly. And it's interesting because, Unit, again, was all through the whole third Doctor era. Yeah. And you had the Brigadier, through that.
Do you feel like there's an essential Unit story?
For me, I think it's the invasion. The second Doctor story, and with the Cybermen, because that basically is
That's
like,
long too.
Yeah, it's 6 episodes.
Yeah,
Invasion is 8.
Is it 8?
It is 8.
Yes, it's 8.
They're all wonderful, but it is 8 episodes.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because that for me is a very essential. That unit was introduced during the one with the snowmen, and that's where the Brigadier. Yeah, and
Web
not the Web of Fear, and then they returned in Invasion, and that's where Brigadier became Brigadier. He wasn't Colonel anymore or whatever. And it basically set the blueprints for the whole Third Doctor era in that storyline. And then, of course, you had some amazing unit stories, and I think one of my favorite was the Daemons and everything was just an awesome. Because you had the Brigadier at his best, and
that's where his most famous line comes from, right?
Yes.
Chap with wings there, 5 rounds rapid.
That's
exactly.
it. I knew Matt would know. Thank you, Matthew.
Yeah.
I knew it was 5 rounds rapid, but I was like, I can't remember what the beginning of it is.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because, Unit basically went away with the Fourth Doctor era, and they made like 2 appearances during that time. And it was kind of sad because it was a nice little tie-in, but the Doctor started going through the whole universe and everything because he had the TARDIS back. And it wasn't possible to have Unit tag along, have the military, come along with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just hop on board. We're going to go do this now. Like, what?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I was thinking about Tom's run as well, and I was trying to think of something that would be essential there. And the one that Genesis of the Daleks we've already talked about. I think that one is pretty much speaks for itself. But I think the other one to me that really speaks this is an important episode beyond just being a good one is Deadly Assassin. It's the first time that we see the Doctor by himself without a companion. And I think, now correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the first time we really learn and see Gallifrey, a lot of it. I mean, I know Gallifrey, we've been there before.
Right. But the assassin one was when, they came up with the Time Lords with the big collars. And,
exactly. That's where the big collars come from.
Exactly.
Think of as the Time Lords.
Exactly.
The first mentions of Rassilon and all of that.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, it was very groundbreaking for the time, because before that, whenever you saw the Time Lords, they wore just like black and white robes and stuff like that, or they were in costume to appear like an Earthling, type thing, but they were floating in the air or something like that. So, but but it's interesting too, because during the Third Doctor era, you also got introduced to the Master. And Roger Delgado chewed up every scene that he was in. And I can't not recommend any of the stories with him in it.
Just to watch him alone.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, exactly. And, like he was in the Daemons, but, also his first appearance was awesome, because when you had him with the Autons, and so it was, what was that? Power? That wasn't Power of the Autons, was it?
Terror of the Autons.
Terror of the Autons. That's right. So yeah, and Delgado, I think to this day, Delgado is the gold standard for the Master, and we've had some amazing Masters. I'm not saying that at all.
I would say Missy may be the only one who's really on par.
It's difficult for me to call her first appearance an essential, because, God, that's hard to watch, that 2-parter.
Yeah.
I mean, she's wonderful, but the rest of it, there's a lot of stuff that I cringe at.
Oh, the Cybermen story, when they brought the Cybermen back from the dead, and I almost stopped watching Doctor Who. That one?
That's the opposite of essential.
Yeah, that is an unfortunate story choice.
What, you guys didn't love Cyber Brigadier? Come on!
Oh my God.
No.
Yeah.
No.
You know,
God, if there was one thing we could like, maybe we'll have to do an episode on that. But if there's something you could like take away from the franchise, like that would be like high on my list.
Yes.
You know, if you want essential Cybermen, I'd actually say go to Big Finish and listen to Spare Parts.
Yes.
Yes.
That is such a wonderful story with Peter Davidson and Nissa. It's Nissa, right? That's
Yes.
in it.
It's played by Sarah Sutton.
Yes.
Yep.
And oh my God, it's such a good story. It's so creepy. It's hard to do creepy body horror over audio, and they manage it. I mean, the whole atmosphere is just and
There's a sorry.
No, go ahead.
There's a wonderful sense of sort of grim bleakness to it. I mean, it's
Yes,
sort of,
exactly.
and it's the genesis of the Cybermen that we never quite got on screen, and it did influence when they brought the Cybermen back in Modern Who.
Yes,
Rise
it
of
did,
the
and
Cybermen,
then
Age of Steel.
yeah,
It's
unfortunately,
loosely-
that is not as good a episode.
Yes. But it's interesting.
Yeah.
Actually, Matt Sweatman actually brought up a good point. Another good essential one would be Silence in the Library from the new series, because that's a Doctor and Donna storyline, but it also introduces River Song.
Yeah. It's a weird one because it's where these two very different eras of Who, Russell T Davies' first era and Stephen Moffat's, kind of wonderfully come together. And it's just a wonderful melding of them because, you know, you've got the timey-wiminess because River's there out of order. You have Moffat's kind of idea that things are never quite what they seem, but you've got the ultimate Russell T Davies era Doctor and companion team there. So it's a wonderful story.
Oh, it is. And the great thing about it, that was the first time the Doctor met someone who was very important to him, that from his future, that he didn't know who she was yet.
That knew more about him than he knew about her.
Exactly.
Yeah, I really love that, man, playing around with time like that. Moffat was the king of that.
Yeah, I miss that.
And that's what we've said on the show multiple times, is Moffat was the first showrunner really to play with time travel, like to do things out of order, or to, you know, actually be able to, you know, have the Doctor appear in different periods and, you know, be able to, you know, with the Impossible Astronaut, you know, the 11th Doctor gets killed. Spoilers if anyone hasn't seen this episode yet. But
we spoiled a lot more than that.
Yeah, I know. But it was awesome because, you saw the Doctor killed, and then all of a sudden a younger version of himself comes out of the bathroom. Oh, I was invited here too, you know. And
River slaps him.
River slaps him. And he's like, you know, I think I probably deserve that somewhere.
Yeah, Moffat was the master of non-linear storytelling.
Yeah, there's some other, like, in Classic Who, there's some other moments where it's used really well that I appreciate. There's one, and it escapes me. I mean, here we are talking about essentials and everything. It's like, and I can't remember names of episodes and all that, but there's one story where the Doctor actually takes, I think it's one of the companions, to the future and shows like a bleak, like, you know,
that was Spirit of Mars.
Yeah, and says like this is what'll happen. Like this is the future if we allow this to happen. So we can't let this happen and go. And I'm like, well, that was cool. Like he's never done that before.
If you like the kind of Moffat era timey-wimey stuff, there's a Fifth Doctor story with the Brigadier in it called Modern Undead, which is it's wibbly wobbly timey-wimey vintage 83 is exactly what it is.
Very much so. And when the two Brigadiers meet, all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
That's that brings us to, you know, I think in our last review episode, we reviewed the very first first story of the John Nathan Turner era, which if you want to bash Chibnall, we can do that all day long, but you know.
Sure, let's start.
But with John Nathan Turner, I think, you know, that I might actually want to be bashing a little bit more, although I do know, just like Chibnall, a lot of people like that era, those eras, and I certainly don't mean any disrespects to either of those fans. So I ask you if there's something that you feel is essential in the John Nathan Turner era.
The Curse of Fenric.
Okay, why do you say that?
I mean, in some ways, it's the ultimate Seventh Doctor story. It's kind of, the Seventh Doctor era is a really interesting one because the show kind of creatively rebounds right at the very end. And it's, in fact, in the middle of rebounding right at that moment when the BBC decides to cancel it. I mean, the problem with the John Nathan Turner era is that, it's, as I think he himself admitted later in his life, he stuck around too long. You know, the average was for producing Classic Who was you stayed there for 3 seasons. And John Nathan Turner stayed there for almost a full decade. And he got stuck and couldn't get out. And part of what goes wrong with Who in the mid-'80s, as we talked about, I think the last time I was on the show was when we did Vengeance on Varos. And one of the things we talked about there is that you essentially had a producer and a script editor who increasingly didn't get along in the form of JNT and Eric Sayward. In Andrew Cartmel, who comes in and basically show runs the writing portions of the Seventh Doctor era, there's fresh energy brought in. There's a whole new blood there. Cartmel comes in and says, let's make the Doctor a darker, more mysterious figure again. We know too much about him, and let's give him a companion he can actually get along with. It's one of the other problems with the Sixth Doctor is Perry, and it's the bicker fest, which is weird because Colin Baker and Nicola Bryant got on in real life. But that's a whole nother conversation. Curse of Fenric is in some ways the distillation of everything in the Seventh Doctor era. And, you know, you've got McCoy at his finest. He plays the lighthearted when he needs to, but he's really there to be darker and whatnot. It's a pivotal story for Ace, Sophie Aldred's companion there. It's set in World War II. And it sort of proves that even though the show is basically running on a shoestring budget at that point, they're still able to bring out the best in it. You know, they pick a World War II setting because the BBC does costume drama well. By Jove, they do here.
Oh, yeah, very much
the
so.
Ancient One and the Hemivores, you know, these sort of blood-sucking weird vampire things from the sea, wonderfully well realized. It's sort of Classic Who going out on the high, and Survival, which follows it, which is the last story, is an interesting story in its own right, but really Classic Who's last high watermark is the Curse of Fenric.
Oh, yeah, because when they did, you know, the final episode, they didn't know it was going to be the final episode either.
Yeah.
And everything at the time. They thought they were going to come back with it and everything.
Yeah.
For me, during the John Nathan Turner era, I have to agree again with Matt Sweatman. God, he's like reading my mind. Caves of Androzani is, I think, one of the best regeneration stories. And just, I think it's the best story of the Fifth Doctor era.
Yeah, I mean, it's too bad he didn't get a decent storytelling.
No,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I think
the Caves of
Peter
Androzani
Davison
is a really good story.
Yeah, I think Peter Davison goes on record saying, like, man, if they were writing was this good before, I wouldn't have quit.
Yeah. I mean, let's not forget, you know, the Fifth Doctor also had Earthshock, which is what you were talking about the Cybermen earlier. You know, there's one of those great Cybermen stories in that one as well.
And we get rid of Adric.
Yeah, that might be considered an essential moment. I mean, that might be considered an essential moment because I think we'd lost companions before, but not like that.
Yeah.
You had lost companions during the First Doctor era. But, you know, since then, no. And it was very rare, you know, either the doctor married off one of the companions or they decided that they had to leave or something. And when they announced Earthshock, they didn't even announce that the Cybermen were back before that. And that's why the title of the story didn't even have, you know, Earthshock of the Cybermen or something like that. And it was interesting. And then for them to obviously kill off Adric at the end. And it was real interesting to do. And it shocked a lot of people.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were like, this is a children's show. You shouldn't be doing that type of thing. Yeah. And, you know.
Yeah, I still say it didn't have perhaps the emotional impact it might have because it was Adric.
Yeah. But it's interesting too because, you know, later on the Doctor is able to control the TARDIS more and, you know, can materialize the TARDIS around somebody as the things around it are destroying and everything. Yeah. But the Doctor couldn't do that with Adric at all. No.
He's like, oh, sorry about that.
Yeah. Not going to happen this time. Sorry.
6 points in
luck, pal.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if I had to pick a essential time episode or story from that period, to me it would be Remembrance of the Daleks. I think it's a great Dalek story. I think, the Doctor makes a decision that's kind of anti what Tom's decision was in Genesis. So it's like almost bookends that kind of thing. And Ace is just amazing. I mean, again, famous scene, right, of Ace clobbering a Dalek with a baseball bat. I mean, who can't love that? Like, it's just full of really cool moments. The Doctor going back to, they're all going back to that school, and it's just like a lot of really rich stuff in that.
And it's the first time you got to see a Dalek actually go upstairs.
That's true.
So, the greatest, invasion force in the galaxy, and they couldn't go up a flight of stairs. It was always the biggest joke.
Yeah. It just occurred to me, we've gotten almost an hour into this discussion and talking about Classic Who. We haven't mentioned City of Death.
That's true.
That's true.
Is it? It's a great story. Is it essential?
I'd say it was. Or I wouldn't have brought it up. It's essential in many ways. First off, it is the top-rated Doctor Who story of all time. There's no Doctor Who story that was seen by a larger UK audience than that story. Never mind, it's because the only other channel at the time was on strike. That's neither here nor there. It's also it's the best story from the year that Douglas Adams wrote for the show.
I don't disagree with that at all.
Yeah, and that's largely because Douglas Adams had to go take somebody else's plot and rewrite it. Because God bless Douglas Adams, huge Hitchhiker's fan. The man, he's one of those writers who did not know his way around a plot. And in the case of City of Death, Douglas Adams got handed somebody else's plot, and he was able to put his dialogue and his ideas on top of it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why City of Death works as well as it does. We were talking about Tom earlier. There's three Tom Baker eras. There's that first era with Philip Hinchcliffe where he's kind of settling into the role. There's a bit more of a darker edge to it. He's a bit more serious. He's funny when he needs to be, but he's more serious. There's that middle era, which includes City of Death, where he is very much, it becomes comedy at times. It almost becomes self-parodying. Largely because, as Tom Baker himself has said, he got handed too much control and got too full of himself. I am the star of this show and so forth. And then you get that last year, which was John Nathan Turner's first year producing it, where there's a more morose feeling to him, I think, because he's being reined in and also because he knows he's going to go. City of Death is one of those places where the Tom Baker comedy half hour actually works. But it's also because him and Douglas Adams got along so well. So that in a couple of places in that story where he has to be serious, he plays it seriously and he brings his A game to it. Also, him and Lalla Ward, sparring off each other with her playing Romana is just, and Paris, come on, Paris, in the springtime, people.
It is a nice travelogue.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you also get John Cleese.
Yeah,
which is awesome.
Yeah,
it is pretty cool, and let's actually essential companions joining or leaving the show. What would you guys think for that?
Let's go. Let's ask Melanie, because I don't think she's picked an essential episode of their story.
No, she hasn't. She's been a little too quiet here. She's just smiling and nodding the whole time.
Well, classic isn't exactly my forte. It's a matter of I've seen it, but it's like essential. I'm like, just get in there and have fun.
I know, but what about new series?
That's fair.
Which
Do you have an essential companion story from the new series?
Let me think. I would.
Oof.
Donna is my favorite companion in the new series, hands down, and I'm gonna go with her coming back. Not runaway bride, but when she comes
Partners
back
in
for
Crime?
that Partners in Crime.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was just such a well written episode in that scene where they ad-libbed. We're like, we're going to have one of the best scenes in Doctor Who, and there's not going to be any dialogue. We're just going to have it mimed. And I just absolutely, I loved it. And I think for me, it was very refreshing. Granted, yes, I did like Rose as a character. I had no problem with the whole lovey-dovey, blah, 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 blah.
Someone on Facebook agrees with you there.
Rose! I had a problem with Rose. Loved Rose. And then got the fact that, okay, they had to separate them. Fine, that's great. Got to do that in Doctor Who. Go for the heartbreak. Fantastic. It's great. It's great storytelling. but I thought they did Martha wrong in that the whole, she's going to pine for the doctor the entire time. And I'm like, this is a pre-med doctor, smart. You're giving her all these amazing episodes, especially the one, when they go back in time and he's been fob watched.
Human Nature.
Human Nature and Family of Blood. Yep.
Family of Blood. Great episodes, but still, here we are where Martha is. I think they gave her that. They just gave her a ball and chain to have to drag through with you. Okay, do all this amazing stuff through this episode, and you still have to pine after this doctor. So when we do get Donna back and his partners in crime, I'm glad that they completely said, look, there is no way, no how, no romance. That's not going to happen. We're getting rid of that facet. I was just so relieved because I'm like, good. I just want good Doctor Who stories. And to me, that did give me a little bit more of that feeling of a classic Who that I did watch, at least with Baker and whatnot, where I'm like, I don't need the romance. I mean, I love the romance with Rose, but I don't have to have that over and over again. Give me just good stories. So that was my big Donna. And
I'm so glad they did not have any kind of romantic thing between the Doctor and Donna.
Oh, absolutely.
And I thought that was brilliant. And I thought it made for a much more solid season because of that too.
Although they made fun of it because whenever someone would say husband and wife, they're like, no.
Oh, no. Yeah. Oh, he's too skinny for me. No, it was always awesome and everything. For new series, I think I've eaten crow twice on the new season, and I've eaten crow about Donna because I didn't like her in Runaway Bride, but she became my favorite companion for number 10. But then I also ate crow about Nardo too with Matt Lucas, and I actually liked him a ton. And I thought he was awesome and everything. And
we all ate crow for that.
Yes, we did. And and it was tasty, but the irony about eating it at the same time was kind of bad. But it was interesting too, though, because there was different companions I loved. I liked Jenna Coleman at first, but I just think they never figured out what to do with her character and everything. And
they did too much.
They did, and then had to run it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because I loved her. Like when I saw her in Asylum of the Daleks, and they surprised everyone by bringing her in.
She was great in that.
And she
Souffle
was awesome.
Girl.
Yep, Souffle Girl. Yeah. And that's how I picture her all the time until I watched Sandman, and then
now she's Joanna Constantine.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Now she's it's like, oh wow, okay, language.
Exactly.
I still wish they had kept the version of her from the Snowmen. That was the original plan. And indeed, when they shot most of that was what they were going to go with. And I really wish they had stuck with that. I mean, Snowman's is my favorite of the Christmas specials, of the modern day Christmas specials. And it's the one that never failing in the 9 years since it's aired. I've sat down somewhere Christmas time every year, and I've watched it. And sometimes I'll watch it in the middle of the year just because. But that one's a lot of fun too, and she's a great character in that. I still sit around sometimes and wonder what might have been for her as a character if they had kept her, or if it kept that version. I mean, but the other thing too is that the problem with Clara is that she became a character in search of an exit, too, because they couldn't decide if and when to let her go. So you have not one but 3 Clara Oswald exits as the show goes along across something like 2 seasons worth between seasons 8 and season 9, and then in the middle of it, you've got Last Christmas. And it's just kind of like, let this character go, please.
Well, I know she was originally supposed to leave at the end of Last Christmas.
Yeah.
And she changed her mind while they were producing it. And they were like, oh, because they were going to have her leave as the old lady. And it would have been a fitting end. I thought it would have been perfect. And nope. Instead, she's flying through the universe with me.
Yep, I think
diner forever.
I think Moffat had written her conclusion just absolutely brilliantly, especially for a character who had so many different. I mean, she went back and saved all the Doctor versions, so she had all these other little she had a storyline that was very complex, and he was able to take that and write it just, okay, we're going to end it beautifully. And then she decided, I'm coming back. And I think he wrote himself into something that he tried his damnedest to get her back into, okay, well, here we go. We'll make it so that you don't believe it's the Doctor, but she's seen every other version of him. How has this happened?
Right.
I think he's just going to run himself out of that.
No, agreed.
There was a lot of times where I think he was overly ambitious, and then a lot of things got convoluted. But I will say, if we're talking about the Moffat era, actually, if we're talking about all of New Who, and maybe even the franchise itself, I can't think of a story that's more essential than the Day of the Doctor. Mm. Like that to me is like the high pinnacle of Doctor Who, New Who. Like it's just like, I mean, for a 50th anniversary, like it, like there was so much pressure. Like, how is he going to deliver? Is this going to be any good? Blah blah blah. Whatever. Going into it, that finale was kind of iffy, and then we get introduced to a new Doctor, a war Doctor. How is that going to work? And there was so many questions going in, and then watching it, I was like, oh my God, I've seen something so brilliant. I immediately watched it again and again and again. It's one of my favorite storylines of all time. And I think it really does set the tone for Doctor Who, like, of the future.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it literally did, because it introduced the new Doctor even before.
It's true.
Yeah.
12 Doctors? No, 13.
And then he sneaked in this little bit with the 8th Doctor beforehand and gave us his a regeneration scene for him. Yeah. It's like, wait, what?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too. One episode, or actually mini short, they should have made. I don't know if you guys know about PS, which is the farewell to Amy and Rory.
Oh, yes.
And basically, I don't know if they ran out of budget or they ran out of time. I don't know the full story behind it, but they have the storyboards up on YouTube in a video form. And Arthur Darvill is basically narrating the script. And basically it's the story of what happened to Amy and Rory.
Yeah.
And basically Rory's father finding out about what happened and him getting to meet his grandson, who is his same age as he is. So
isn't it Chris Chibnall who wrote that?
Yeah, because it was, as I understand.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah. Suddenly he hates it.
No, no, it's a beautiful story. I will never hate that.
No, it's very well written.
Yeah. Yeah, as I understand it, that was originally written for Power of Three, which was the episode that came before Angels Take Manhattan. And they didn't film it because even though it was written, and Arthur Darvill had actually recorded the speech, which is why they have that, him reading the letter over it, they decided it was too big of a spoiler for what was going to happen in the next episode. And also, for those who don't know, Power of Three had a troubled production because of one particular actor, Steve Burkhoff, which is the reason why that episode ends so weirdly. And because of that, and because of how much time and attention had been played to trying to salvage something out of that performance and those scenes that they shot, they didn't have the time to go do it anyways. And they just decided, you know what, for story, this doesn't fit in to the episode anyways. And also it perhaps oversets up what's going to happen next episode. So, but it's a wonderful little side piece. But as a writer myself, I can see it I don't think it quite fit the tone they were looking for. And,
I agree. I don't think it would have either.
Yeah. No. I mean, one of the hard things about editing is the old cliche of you have to kill your darlings. Right. And I think that scene is a perfect example of that.
But it's actually almost more powerful in the way that you see it, just presented as the storyboards.
Yeah.
It's very spare and it's very effective, the narration over it.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about deleted scenes is that they look great in isolation, but you're seeing it in isolation. You're not seeing it in the context that it would have been in if it had actually gone in the episode. And I think a lot of times joys of the internet is we have fan edits of almost anything and everything, it feels like, and people go in and they reinsert scenes that were cut and everything else. And I actually did that one time out of curiosity with Power of Three. I watched the episode, and then as the episode was wrapping up, put on that scene and kind of went, you know what? That's a 180 degree handbrake turn.
Yeah, it would not have worked. Yeah.
Yeah.
It would have felt just tacked on.
Yeah.
And that's the half season. It's Rory and Amy's last half season,
Right.
And I know Mike and I, and a few. We built this theory that we're actually watching it out of order. Like the stuff that happens at the end of the season, like Matt goes back and actually has adventures with them beforehand or something like that because he knows. Because there's something about those first few episodes that feels really weird. Like Matt knows something that the Doctor knows something that they don't. And I wish they'd kind of played around with that. I wish that Moffat would pull the trigger on something like that, because that would have been really innovative and really cool. But it's another thing that just didn't come into play.
Yeah, well, they reference it on screen because there's a reference at the beginning of Town Called Mercy where somebody mentions leaving the phone charger in Henry VIII's bedroom.
Yes,
and we see that scene inside Power of Three.
Yes.
Yeah. And I just, So I wish they'd really been able to take that idea and really form something special with it. But, we get what we get.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the joys of something like Big Finish, because I think that when people talk about why doesn't the TV show do something like what you were just talking about, part of that is that, yes, it's there for us, us the fans, but it also has to appeal to a wider audience. Mm-hmm. And one of the joys of things like the novels and the Big Finish audios and the comics is they just have to appeal to us, the fans, who are going to go out and spend the money on it. So they can do all kinds of wild and crazy stuff. There's storylines at Big Finish that went on for literally years where they would do 3 or 6 audios a year toying with that story, where you could do, and because you only have to get people into a studio for a day or two a year, you can stretch out a storyline for a decade or more that you could never do on TV because it takes too long to produce and people want to go do other projects.
True. Very, very true.
Yeah.
It's Go ahead, Mary. No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I think, if you're an Eighth Doctor fan, then you really need to explore the Big Finish audios and the books, because there is a wealth of good storytelling around the Eighth Doctor that, will completely wipe out what you saw in the movie in a good way. Like if you're talking about a book, I would recommend one called Crooked World, which is one where the Eighth Doctor lands in a cartoon world that's been created because a child crash landed on a planet. But this is a planet where thoughts become reality, and her dying thoughts were of the cartoons she used to watch. And so she, the whole world, it's like a parody of Warner Brothers cartoons, and only they're very stagnant. They're playing the same storylines over and over. And when the Doctor shows up, he gives them, sort of accidentally, gives them free will. And it's a fascinating story and a wonderful exploration of the Eighth Doctor. So I definitely recommend checking it out.
Oh, very much so. And it's awesome because some of the books, because if you ever get a chance, Human Nature, which we talked about earlier with the 10th Doctor, is a great 7th Doctor, and it's a great, great story. It doesn't resemble the story that we saw on TV all that much, but it's pretty amazing. And for, fans of some of the side characters and such, Big Finish is great for that also. You get River Song, you get the Paternoster Gang, you also get Django and Lightfoot, you get Sarah Jane Adventures, you get, there's all these other stories. They call them, a lot of them are the Companion Chronicles they have.
Yeah, there's some of those.
Yeah.
And so it's some amazing stuff. Also, Big Finish has alternate history of the 3rd Doctor with David Warner, who just passed away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you're going to pick, funnily enough, even though Warner's an unbound doctor, as they call him, if you're going to look for somewhere to start at Big Finish, I'd actually go to his very first audio called Sympathy for the Devil. Yes, it's not canon per se, and it's set in an unbound universe. But if you want a great example of what Big Finish does in terms of writing, in terms of the casting, because that thing's got a heck of a cast. not only do you have David Warner in it playing this alternate Third Doctor, you've got Nicholas Courtney playing a different version of the Brigadier. You've got some chap named David Tennant playing a very disagreeable unit colonel. And you've got Mark Gatiss playing the Master in that. But it's also a wonderful example of what Big Finish does in terms of production. It's a little audio. It's basically an audio movie. It runs about 80 minutes, and it is a full-scale audio movie. And, if you're looking for places to start with Big Finish and you're not worried about canon, or you've heard with David Warner's unfortunate passing recently, wait, he played the Doctor at Big Finish, that's a great place to start. And I also want to second, Mary, we were talking about earlier about Spare Parts. Spare Parts is another great place. If you've never heard of Big Finish audio before, that's a great one to pick up. You may be creeped out by it, but it's a great one to pick up.
There's some really good stuff there. And Mike, I know we're getting ready to wind up pretty soon, but I don't think we can get out of here. I mean, I know
we have all the time in the world, guys. Come on.
I know we chib no bash and everything, but I don't think we can really close the discussion without talking about Jodie's run. I mean, to leave out Jodie in a list of his Doctor Who Essentials seems to me like that's just criminal, right? So let me ask you guys if there are any stories, starting from The Woman Who Fell to Earth to the last one we saw, that you guys would comfortable putting on an essential Doctor Who list.
Rosa. I would absolutely put Rosa on the list.
And I would add Tesla.
The Tesla episode was awesome.
Tesla. I mean, there's some flaws, but they're, I think, just wonderful explorations of historical characters, and the way Jodie interacts with them is amazing.
I also like Demons of Punjab?
Yes. Oh, yes. That one's a good one.
Yeah, that one was also good. That was the first time I had heard about, when Pakistan and India separated. And, then they recently touched on it again during Ms. Marvel.
Yes.
And so I thought that was, and there's so much history that here in the United States we don't know about. And for us to be able to see stuff like that was, just awesome. The Weeping Angels story they did during Flux was amazing.
Yes.
It made the angels scary again.
Yes.
And it's pretty funny because, going back to older new series, a lot of people who ask me, where should I start Doctor Who? I actually tell them to watch Blink first because it's a Dr. Light story. And, and I know my wife, actually, that's how she got into Doctor Who. I told her to watch Blink and she was watching it on an airplane and she was like horrified and everything. So it's pretty cool. There's a couple other of the Jodie era that they're not bad, folks. They're not all bad. So.
Well, I mean, in terms of it remains to be seen if it's going to be followed up and what's going to happen. But I mean, Fugitive of the Jejune is a really big deal. That's one of those stories that has the potential to change the franchise forever. Now it just remains to be seen. Is it going to Chibnall's open that door? Is he going to close it? Or is RTD going to close it or ignore it, or what's going to happen? I think that's one of the main questions we have going into this whole changeover, is what's going to happen with the stuff that Chibnall has started with that.
And I think the same can be said, too, for that matter, for Timeless Children. Love it or hate it, and it is divisive out the wazoo, but it is the biggest continuity canon shakeup that Doctor Who has had, possibly since Deadly Assassin. Another Gallifrey story that we talked about earlier, because it's a pretty big one in terms of that. But
I got a feeling that's all going to get wiped away.
I never heard of a Timeless Child. What are you talking about? Yeah. But it's interesting. And it's, there's with that episode though, when they introduced, the Ruth Doctor, and we thought the Jadoon are back. Okay. Oh, Captain Jack is back. Oh, this is awesome. And boy, were we not prepared for what was Exactly. And, that's why I have it as the opening of Earth Station Who. It's a great scene. I've broke the glass, I got my memory back, and it's just awesome. And, for me to go, wow, and be surprised like that from a Chibnall story, I was impressed, and it's awesome. Another story, I think, two stories I want to recommend for people who, want to catch up with Doctor Who. Van Gogh. You got to recommend the Van Gogh story.
Yep. Vincent and the Doctor.
Vincent and the Doctor is one of the most beautiful stories ever. But then also The Doctor's Wife is another great story.
Yes.
And so, those are both from the new series. But, I think there's so much where you could start at, wherever you want to feel comfortable with. Jump in with both feet, as I'd like to say. There's a whole universe ahead of you, and you're going to have a blast. And just have fun with it. And listen to Earth Station Who, because we can help you with that. It's really awesome. Not trying to pat myself on the back there or anything, but it's pretty awesome. Real quick, one episode, if you had to recommend one episode, we'll go through the panel. Start with Melanie first. So, of course. So.
The bad thing is, in my top of my head, I could tell you a book and I could tell you a big finish. An episode, you just said the two perfect ones. Oh, God.
Of course I did.
I don't know where to go.
You can name one I've named. No.
Vincent and the Doctor. Whenever somebody asks me if I'm going to start Doctor Who, I always recommend two different episodes. Or if they're going to get completely into Who, I always say Vincent and the Doctor. Just watch that one if it resonates with you. If that monologue that's delivered by Bill Nighy at the end doesn't make you start crying, I don't know what will. But in a good way, good tears. Otherwise, I'm with Mike on the 50th. The 50th is a great episode that if you're a classic person that's trying to get back into it, or you're completely new, it's going to be very timey-wimey. It's going to be all over the place. You're not going to know what's going on. But the good thing is, anybody who's watching the show currently all the way up to that point, they didn't know what the hell was going on either. So you're not going to get confused. You're not going to be like, well, what about this? It's a great ride. And then you're going to see the curator. And that makes my heart sing. And you see more, and there's more the curator is also in Big Finish's Stranded with the 8th Doctor. So I highly recommend that too.
That's awesome. Matthew, what about you, sir?
I'm going to actually go with one that we've mentioned earlier, which is the 11th Hour. If you're gonna stick with modern Who, it's going to be the 11th Hour. If I can cheat a bit and pick one for classic Who as well, I'm actually going to say Spearhead from Space, the beginning of the 3rd Doctor era.
Oh yeah,
because there's a lot of overlap between those two. They're both Earthbound. They're both introducing new doctors. And the thing about those stories is that those doctors, the 3rd Doctor, the 11th, John Pertwee and Matt Smith, they arrive fully formed in a flame. And if you want kind of a feeling for what classic Who could do and for what modern Who has been capable of, it's got to be one of those, depending on, whether you're going to put up with the 70s production values or not.
Oh, sure. But it's funny, too, because in that episode, both doctors steal clothes from a hospital.
Yes, I'd forgotten about that.
So it's pretty awesome. Awesome. All right, Mary, go ahead.
I think, trying to come up with one that we haven't talked about yet, I think I would say Midnight, because it's a very contained episode, and you're watching it from the same perspective as the other people on the ship. You're the audience, you have no idea what's going on. And David Tennant's performance in that is amazing. It's one of his best performances, I think. And it's got the whole Doctor Who oeuvre, the sort of weird alien presence, the psychological horror, the heroic sacrifice, and in a very contained space.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Agree with that completely. It's a good episode. All right, Mr. Mike.
Going for one that we haven't discussed, I'm going to pick The Husbands of River Song. The Doctor in his whole franchise is actually married at one point. And I think there's no better episode or story that shows their relationship in a romantic way as that special. it is a great bookend to Silence in the Library, I think. It's beautiful. And I think it's an important moment for them as a couple.
Oh, very much so. Very, very much so. It's interesting because I'm going to probably say, for me, an essential, where I would recommend to have somebody do. I'm going to cheat a little bit also. For mine, it's going to be probably Robot, the first Tom Baker story, which is awesome.
The introduction of the scarf.
The introduction of the scarf, and you get to see the Doctor dressed as a Viking, so which is pretty awesome. Yeah. And then for new series, I'm going to have to echo Matthew and go with the 11th Hour. It basically reintroduces the whole mythos of Doctor Who. It starts off fresh, and you have if you have never seen Doctor Who or anything before that, you could pick it up right there and go forward, and you would be fine. And then go back and catch what you've missed before. So I definitely would recommend that. But there's so many different ones. If you hear a story title that catches your fancy, that's what you should do. Or if you're passing on Pluto TV and they have the old series on, sit down and start watching it. The problem with that is they show them in half-hour episodes. And so if you might have to come in like halfway through a storyline or something like that. So, but there's definitely BritBox we always recommend. And then, of course, HBO Max right now is showing the new series.
Yep.
And so I think they just added Doctor Who Flux. So they're all the way through. I don't think they're showing any of Jodie's specials yet. So I'm not 100%. Don't take my word on that one because... we're not perfect on the show, as we like to say. So it's pretty awesome. And it's neat to be able to talk to people. So, and whenever you meet another Whovian, who's your doctor? And, and everything like that. It's always a cool, because you have a little fraternity / sorority of Doctor Who fans. And it's pretty awesome.
And on that note, too, I want to make sure that we call these essentials and we have suggestions for things. But we are by no means like gatekeeping. Like this is not like you have to watch these or you're not considered a Doctor Who fan or anything like that. That is not the point of this story, this episode at all. We just are throwing things out there that we think are special and important to the franchise, and hope you check them out. But whatever your love, whenever you came in and joined Doctor Who, however you discovered Doctor Who, whether you watch it religiously or whether you just watch it here and there, I'm glad that you have found some enjoyment from the franchise.
It's all love, no matter how you watch it.
Absolutely.
And always remember, if you put 10 Doctor Who fans in a room, you're going to get 11 opinions.
Yeah, damn straight. It's exactly right. Thank you guys for joining us. And it's awesome that we got to do this discussion. You know what? It's been a blast. And, it's always fun to be able to come live for you. I think StreamYard worked pretty well once we got the bugs knocked out and everything like that. But definitely, if you get a chance, of course, we are found up on earthstationwho.com, or you can also listen to our podcast wherever fine podcasts are found. The audio version of this will be going live probably by the end of this week. So definitely check it out. And, we'll probably, end up doing another video probably in the fall, probably right around the time of the Centennial episode. I think we might do that as a review of it actually live. I think would probably be good. I think that'll be our next time we do that. But speaking of live, we are going to be at Dragon Con. I can officially say we have been approved for an Earth Station Who panel, and we are going to be doing a review of the Jodie Whittaker era of Doctor Who. So we promise it will not be all Chibnall bashing. I promise.
No, not at all. No. That's not our intent at all. It may turn into that, but it's not our intent.
which is awesome. But I'm looking forward to it, and Right now, we don't have a date or time because they haven't sent out schedules yet. So, and I know we had a tentative time, but it's already been changed. So, you'll find us. And I hate to say it, when the app comes out, everyone drink, for Dragon Con, look up Earth Station Who. We will be up in there. And, it's going to be a ton of fun to talk all about it. And it's always great to meet our fans and meet other Whovians. It's pretty darn awesome. Of course, if you want to leave us feedback at earthstationwho.com. If you ever want to help support the station, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/ESO network. And of course, we have a TeePublic store, which Mary keeps up with really cool t-shirt ideas and everything.
And this is really fun.
Oh, the sarcasm right there. I love it. And it's just awesome to be able to talk to you guys. Let's thank our guests for being here tonight. Let's thank everyone over in Facebook and over in YouTube land for joining us. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you, everybody, for being our guests. And our people up here. Melanie, thank you so much.
Well, thank you always for having me on and talking Doctor Who. I love doing it.
I love putting you on the spot. It's awesome.
Yay!
Anything you want to promote?
No. You can just follow me on Instagram and Facebook here at Pieces of Melee. Right now I'm trying to do painting, but it's been more about me rescuing cats at the moment, hence why you've been seeing me being muted here because one's going nuts on my desk.
Of course.
That's it.
So are you going to be doing new Doctor Who type paintings with paw prints on it with kids?
That's probably what's going to be happening at some point. Is someone's going to be running through something. I
think those would sell.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll make sure that they're new Earth.
Yes, not novice name.
Yep, Cator Who.
I love it. There we go. Marketing. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us, my friend.
Always a pleasure. Glad that State Yard finally cooperated so I could get on here.
Oh, us too. Alan, sorry you couldn't make it with us tonight. I know you were having technical difficulties, but we will have you on next time. Promise. Hopefully StreamYard will behave by then. Matthew, anything you want to promote?
You can find me on Twitter at Facebook at Kresal Writes. That's KRESALWRITES. I'm reviewing Big Finish and other geeky stuff over on Warp Factor. And if you feel so inclined to buy my fiction writing, I do have a Cold War alternate history novel called Our Man on the Hill, available now on Kindle from Sea Lion Press.
Fantastic. And we will have notes to that up on our show notes and links to it. So very cool. And let's thank our regulars for being here, of course, tonight. Mr. Mike Gordon, thank you, my friend.
As always, it's my pleasure.
And, of course, Ms. Mary Ogle, thank you.
Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
And you want to promote your artwork also?
You can find me at maryogle.com or on Etsy at eVision Arts.
Excellent. And everyone, thank you again for listening. And hope it wasn't too scattered tonight. It was just all over the place tonight. We will be back again in 2 weeks. And we are going to be going back to Big Finish of all places. We are going to be doing the Paternoster Gang Heritage 4. It's the final one of the Big Finish series that they were working on.
Yay.
And so it should be fun to talk about Jenny Strax and Madame Vastra. So it should
Those have been really good.
They have been good. So it's going to be fun to follow it up and see what they have. And at least we won't get the big, loud River Song theme. So it's okay. So it'll be cool. On behalf of myself, thank you guys, everyone at home, everyone on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you. It's awesome. See,
showing your age there.
I know. Exactly. So thank you guys. Peace. Hug your loved ones. And we'll see you next time on the Earth Station Who podcast. Peace. And we are done. Boom. Bye, guys.
Yay. Bye.
So long. Thanks for all the fish.
You have been listening to Earth Station Who, a bi-weekly pop culture podcast dedicated to all things Doctor Who, featuring talent from across the universe. All topics on the show are the sole opinions of the individual and are used for entertainment value alone. You subscribe to our podcast up on iTunes, Stitcher, or follow our blog at www.esopodcast.com. You can also follow us up on Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. If you enjoyed the show, please leave feedback up on iTunes.
Winter is coming. Prepare with a fine cigar and listen to the Cigar Nerds podcast. We smoke cigars and talk about movies and all kind of nerdy things. Available at cigarnerdpodcast.com. Also on the ESO Network at esonetwork.com.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.